Ladies and gentlemen, Dave, OrgoneGenerator.com. In this video, I want to cover something that I think is really interesting, like a really interesting topic. And that's integrating an Orgone generator into your other existing practices. Okay, spiritual practices, manifestation practices. Because what the generator really is, it's an amplifier. It can do things that you currently cannot do, okay? But if you already have a practice, it can just absolutely amplify it. Like, let's say you're good at manifestation. It will act as an amplifier. And so the example I'm going to use is this. I'm going to use the example of a prayer box. And look, we've got ourselves a Tupperware container. We're going to pretend that's a prayer box. So I grew up Christian, and I'm not Christian. And so the prayer box is something I heard about. And what you do is you write down a prayer, and then you put it in the box. And by putting it into the box, you are, quote unquote, giving it to God. Okay? And I think that's an interesting manifestation practice. All right, I'm sure there are analogous examples in other religions. Okay, so how would you do that with an Orgone generator? Some people, Carl originally designed these generators to connect with other devices, whether it is another control panel, whether it's an altar. Okay, some people do magic. Some people they've got they have a certain religion. And so a generator can work with all of those. Like, we don't tell you to abandon what you currently do. All right, we tell you to augment it, to amplify it. Okay, so with a prayer box, let's say this is the prayer box. Hopefully it's nicer, but this could work. What you would do is you would write down your prayer. All right, and I'm not going to write anything down, but I got a piece of paper, okay? I write down my prayer. I just do my normal thing, all right? Like, whatever your normal thing is, do that. And then what you want is because that's an operation. Like, if you pray for someone, that's an operation. All right, let's say you got a target, someone is, they need to find the love of their life, or they need to find a job or something like that. So if you pray for them to do that, then that is an operation. And there are people who are better at prayer than others. In the Christian religion, you've got prayer warriors. There's literally churches where there are people most of the day sitting inside in a room, and they are praying, because the congregation has sent them stuff that they're worried about, and what they do is pray. Okay, and we would disagree on the source of the life energy. We would disagree about the mechanics of it. Okay, but there's people who do that, and the more you do something, the better at it that you get. So what I would do with a prayer box, let's say I do that. The person I'm praying for, it's target. Maybe it's myself. That's the target, right? What is the prayer? What is it that you want? What is it that person wants, that person needs? That is your trend. And then I would put the prayer box on or near a generator. It's kind of simple. It's pretty simple. Sometimes people have trouble connecting dots, but I would write my prayer down, and then I would put it in the box. And the idea is that once you've put it in the box, at least with Christians, the idea is once you put it in the box, God is going to take care of it. Okay, you've put it off your mind. Which okay, I think that's an interesting concept. So, and I think most people praying are using their own life energy. They might also be using, we've got a video on like sources of life energy. I think they might also be using, they could be using the life energy from a ritual, right? Like the ritual itself is taking a life of its own because so many people have done it for so long. They could be using the life energy of followers, of people who follow them and believe in them, stuff like that. So, I think most people who pray are using like their own life energy. They could be using the life energy of like a religious institution, the church, capital letters, the church. I mean, how many prayers are sent to the church, quote unquote, every day? Worldwide, like a lot. That's all life energy. And so what I would do with something like a prayer box, I would just do my normal thing. I would just do my normal process, however you normally do it. Whether you just write it down, and then I would put the prayer box on top of a generator or next to it, because, we've talked about this before, but there's a local element to Orgone. And then we believe Orgone can travel at any distance instantaneously, like, even across the world. So I think that you want to take advantage of the local. I mean, you at least want to take advantage of the local element. If you don't believe in Orgone or like you don't really know about it, you want to at least take advantage of the local element. And so it's kind of like how to supercharge your manifestations. All right. And it's just do your normal thing, and then put a bunch of Orgone behind it. Like the number one reason manifestations fail is a lack of life energy. Okay. That you should know that. The number one reason manifestations fail is a lack of life energy. So that's what I would do. So if I had a prayer box and that was something I did, if that was a process I did, if that was part of like my daily, weekly ritual, I would write down my prayer like I normally do, and then I would just put it on the generator, and I would focus. I would focus. I think like, and we have a whole video about this, but like, connecting with the object of your manifestation, both the target and the trend, is important. I have a whole video on that. But basically, so you're going to focus more. You want to be clear. I would write the prayer as if for an objective third party to be able to read it and understand it. That's a big thing. Okay, so I would write that down. I would put it on the generator, and then I would see what happens. And maybe you are pulling on an entity, a god. Maybe you are pulling on a ritual. Maybe you are pulling on something that has a life of its own. Like the church, something like that. But then you can also pull on the generator again. The best way to describe the generator that I've come up with is like, you got this generator. Imagine it shoots a laser, okay? Imagine it like billows. Imagine it billows like a bunch of Orgone in the surrounding area and kind of like saturates the whole area. And then imagine that you can take that energy and shoot it at someone or shoot it at a situation. Okay, that's how I think about it. So, with a prayer, like depends on the prayer, but write it down like you normally do. Write it clear, and then, put it on the generator, and then shoot the energy. I once described this as like a magic wand. I once described a generator as a magic wand. Think about that. And I know there's movies on that and everything. But imagine a magic wand. That is what we believe these are. It's just we're not holding it. I'm just not holding the wand. okay? But in both cases, I'm directing it via structural links and my mind. All right, and then let the energy do the work. Okay. So I want you to think about that. And so like don't be afraid to integrate the energy with your current practices. Like we have a really wide variety of like customers. People who have like and followers, people who have been with us for years. Like we got people who practice magic. We have people from the major religions. Like we have people who do, tarot and stuff. Like we have a bunch of different types of people because the generator we have mediums. I remember a medium dude. We have a bunch of different types of people because the generator can accommodate so many. So you don't have to give anything up. You don't, in a way, you don't have to like believe in us more than what you already do. I just use it. Use it. It's a tool. Generators are tools. So whatever it is that you do right now, a generator, if used properly, we believe it will amplify that. Okay. And so I just wanted to use Prayer Box as an example. I don't know more complex rituals. But yeah, and if you do something like more complex, like a ritual that's more complex, like do it near a generator, do it on the generator, connect the generator to, maybe you have a metal altar, okay, connect the generator to it. And then just do your normal thing. And that will like really help you. Okay. So let us know if you have any questions. Dave, OrgoneGenerator.com. If you want our best tips and tricks, join our school program, like our school community. And so what we're trying to do is put a lot of our knowledge and best tips and tricks in a single place, and also have people like learn together. It's useful to see other people's questions, to see other people's struggles, to see other people's attempts. Like I think you learn stuff from people. We're also like putting in unique content in that community. Excuse me, that you won't have on YouTube or on our website. So we want people to join that because we think it can just be this like great central repository of knowledge. Carl used to have a forum, and that's kind of what we want to revive. And so, it's been a while. So we use School, skool.com/Orgone. So we would love to have you join. You can ask us questions, get direct access to us. And yeah, I think we're gonna share more stuff in there, more like kind of more advanced stuff as we go here. So again, Dave, OrgoneGenerator.com. Feel free to drop a like, a comment, all that, and we will talk to you soon.